Hey everybody, what's up? We are back with another stock analysis. Today we will be going through VYNE Therapeutics. So they're mainly pharmaceutical products. So we will be going over a lot of the financials with this company, looking into their recent earnings report, as well as going over their chart recently. So if you're interested, make sure to subscribe. If you haven't already, I think like 90% of my viewers are not subscribed. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. And let's get into VYNE Therapeutics. So starting off right away, we're just going to see their commercial products right now consist of AMZEEQ and ZILXI, I'm guessing. So those are obviously two drugs that they currently develop. One thing to note right off the bat, market cap is at 40 million, which is very, very low, incredibly low for any company, especially a public company. Enterprise value is negative, which is a little rough. Half owned by institutional, which is kind of low. And also the top 10 own 45%, which is also kind of low, I want to say. One thing to note that's a little positive here, target price a little above $6. Long-term growth rate at 2% is kind of low, especially for a pharma company. But current price at 276. So we could see an upside here just based on the target of over 100%, which is possible, but just based on their historical performance here, I'm going to assume is unlikely. So their stock price used to be right around $500 for years, it looks like, since 2019, almost 2018. They were above $100, and then right around 2021, they dropped below it. And since then, it's been mostly a free fall until they hit single digits, and now they've been kind of stagnant around the $2 to $3 range for a while. So looks like they're really just hoping for a big development. One thing to note, which I'm just going to go into right now, their growth summary is massively negative. So not looking great for the company as of right now. I'm going to say this is a no-go with the investment situation, but obviously there could be a ton of potential here. Just doing a quick glance through the financials, massively negative with a lot of things. But anyway, let's get into a little bit more of specifics, and we'll kind of see where the company is moving around here. So starting off with their income statement. So not much in the way of sales. You could see 2020 was a big year for them, most likely with the pandemic, I would imagine, but it looks like they really haven't done much of anything since then. Now, that could be because of mainly focusing on research and development, which we could see here is their primary expense, as well as just other SG&A, which is usually research and development related. So their operating income is very, very negative. It's been staying fairly steady, though, mostly consistent with itself. And net income, same thing. It's been fairly consistent right around the 20 to 30 million for the past few years. But also 2020 was a massive loss for them. You could see they just had 158 million of unusual expenses, as well as an enormous increase in SG&A expenses. So really just doesn't seem like they're heading down the right path, at least in my opinion. Now, obviously, they could make a huge development and something could come from that, but right now, just based on my first impression, it does not look like it is very positive. One thing to also say is their basic shares have basically exploded in the past 2 years. They're looking at right around 42 million basic shares, coming up from 10 million last year and 3 million the year before. So they are fully bankrolling themselves by selling shares now. As we move into the balance sheet here, we'll kind of see what their debt situation is. I can't imagine it is very good, but maybe we'll see something here that could be a little more positive. And yes, we will. So their debt situation is good. They have no debt, basically, very, very little. This is in the thousands, which is nothing. A lot of cash, which from what I've seen so far, this could sustain them for another just about 2 to 3 years, just based on their current amount of cash. And this is not including 2024. So I will actually go to the quarterly view here to show 2024. So it does look like they are starting to use a lot of that cash that they had at the end of 2023. And it also looks like their assets aren't really increasing from it, which isn't great. But again, a lot of that is going into research and development. So that is definitely something to consider. Still very, very little debt, no long-term at all in the past quarter. So overall, I think there is a little bit of financial stability here. However, they need to have some kind of breakthrough. With pharmaceutical companies like this, they fully depend on having that. And if they don't have that, they're not really going to get anywhere and will just run themselves into the ground after losing hundreds of millions of dollars. So Looking into their cash flows, obviously operating is going to be negative across the board. Investing activities, we could see they actually purchased a lot of investments 2 quarters ago, but other than that, have mostly been selling off. Their investing cash flow is mostly negative, other than that 1 quarter. Financing cash flow, you could see they did a lot of stock selling at the end of 2023, which is where they got that large amount of cash that we saw earlier. And we could see even with that, actually, their free cash flow was still negative that quarter. And it's mostly because of purchasing investments as well as just the negative cash flow from operations. So overall, it's increasingly negative free cash flow as well, where they're now losing 8.5 million per quarter instead of 5 to 7 million a couple quarters ago. And at the end of 2023, they were actually at 9.5. And before that, it looks like it was mostly about the same, but increases over the past 5 quarters. So fairly negative there. Other than that, I won't go into the segment history because it's going to show exactly what we already saw. And the sales is not really anything too crazy there. Going into the ratios, we're really not going to get much from this, only because their numbers are so crazy. But one thing I will say is their ROA, ROE are the lowest they have been since 2016. So that is at least something. Other than that, it looks pretty rough. Obviously, their debt to equity though is very good, so that is a very small light in an otherwise very dark tunnel. But overall, with the company, the financials look very rough. Again, you have to remember this is a research development based company at the moment, so they do not have the revenue to show for it yet, but hopefully in the near future they will. So let's take a look at an recent earnings report and see if there's anything too interesting here. So some highlights at the top here. Phase 2 trial exceeds enrollment target, expected to be fully enrolled in the end of 2024 with results for mid 2025. Positive phase 1 expected at the end of 2024. Okay, so they have some positive things going for them currently. It's just a matter of, can they sustain themselves until then, which I'd imagine they can, and will they be more adopted to the point of providing cash flow. So here are some other financial results for them. They have 70.2 million in cash, sufficient to fund its operations through the end of 2025, which we saw earlier is kind of where top line results on track for mid 2025. So they should have some results before then. Revenues were 100,000 for both quarters. This is the September quarter of this year and last year. So not much growth there at all. Obviously, they're really not going to have any revenue at all, so that's nothing crazy there. Other than that, I'm not seeing anything else too interesting. So obviously, if you would like to read through the actual pharmaceuticals information, read through this. I'm sure there's some interesting information there. I'm trying to look through it a little bit just to see if anything sticks out too much. But overall, I think there is a little bit of potential. It's just a matter of, can they sustain themselves until they get the research they need. But other than that, it looks like they focus on the treatment of vitiligo with one of their medications. So that is something where they say there is a significant unmet need. So if this treatment is available and becomes approved like by the Food and Drug Administration and it can be marketed, I think it could be very successful for the company. So that is something positive to think about. But overall, let's move ahead now and go into the stock chart, where we could see it has been a rough time for this company. Going public back in 2018 in January and instantly taking a massive hit of 73% in one day. Looks like in April of the same year. And since then, it has just been a very rough ride for them. It does look like they have a little bit of a support zone right around the $1.70 mark. So that is something to think about for any shorter term traders that are looking into this. This is over the past couple months, of course. This is actually basically the entire year of 2024, which we can show right here. So over the past couple weeks, they have been massively plummeting. Now, I don't know if that's anything specific, but they were over $4 and now they're back at $2.70. So that is something to think about. But it looks like they did have a pretty solid run up in the past few the second half of 2024. So there could be some potential here, a lot more interest in the company maybe, but overall, I would say it's a little high risk, and the upside seems like it's at least 6 months away right now, to the point where it doesn't see it's very risky. That's what I'm going to say. So overall, that's all I have for VYNE Therapeutics. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see everybody in the next video.